Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. So this one is going to officially close the Thailand chapter. Trust me, I will be back. However, I'm hoping it's going to act as like a segue into my next adventure, because I am going to be talking to you guys about how I planned my Thailand trip and just more generally talk about how you can plan a backpacking adventure. I mean, I haven't done that much traveling, I know, but I've learned a lot just through solo traveling around Australia for 3 months, as you guys know, and most recently Thailand with my brother Matthew. So I hope this video is going to be useful, and most excitingly, I am going to be sharing my full Thailand itinerary with you guys. It's a 30-day itinerary, like a month basically. It's 100% free. There is a link down below that will take you to my website. You can download it. It is everything that Matthew and I did. It's got like the hostels we stayed in, how we got from A to B, the tours we did, the activities. So I hope you enjoy using that. And in this video, as I said, I'm going to talk about like how I went about planning that and how you can do so if you're planning a trip to anywhere in the world, hopefully. So definitely like this video if you enjoy it as usual, comment down below, subscribe if you are new, and I do recommend watching the full Thailand travel series if you are interested, because I honestly had the best time. I loved bringing you guys along our travel adventure. So that's everything for this intro. We're gonna dive straight into the video, and if you are wondering why the holly bun has made a return to your screens with a bit of hair sticking out the side, it's just because the cows were having a bad hair day today, so we put it in a bun. The first thing is kind of obvious. It's to pick your destination, but there are like a few factors you can consider when choosing where to go next, or choosing where to go for your first backpacking trip. The first thing I do is I turn to my bucket list. It's not really a physical list, it's in my head, but I do have a bucket list of destinations. But to be honest with you, I am open to exploring anywhere in the world, because as you guys know, I've got the travel bug. But then you can think about other things, like what is the best time of year to visit this particular destination, how long you want to spend traveling, whether you can like see a lot of that country or those countries in that duration of time, how safe is that place where you're traveling. You know, I picked Thailand because it's very backpacker friendly and it's really quite safe and well traveled, especially for female travelers. I was originally planning this solo, by the way. Think about your budget. How much do you want to spend? What type of adventure are you looking for? Do you want to like spend time exploring beaches or like doing a lot of hiking? There are just so many things you can think about. But like, do you want to learn a particular language? You might want to go to like Germany, for example, to learn German, which is very personal to me. Choosing the destination or destinations to visit can be so incredibly tough, and I hate making decisions, as we know, but I think that's your first thing to think about. The second thing you're obviously going to do is like plan what you're going to do there. Make an itinerary, and I think there are 3 different ways you can go about doing this. So the first is to like contact a travel agency and ask them to help you plan the trip. Now this is what I did with my Australia trip. So I solo traveled around Australia for 3 months, and Welcome to Travel, shout out to Daryl and the team at Welcome to Travel, they were honestly amazing. Welcome to Travel are a tour-based company in Australia. They have tours in Melbourne and Sydney, but they also help backpackers plan their adventures around Australia. The second way, if you don't want to do all the research yourself, you can just book onto like one big tour. There are loads of companies out there now, and it's just about finding the trip for you and seeing if it falls within your budget. Obviously, the best thing about this is that it's all done for you. However, you will have a set itinerary and you won't have as much flexibility, but as I said, it will save you a lot of time with the planning. You will be guided the whole way and you'll probably meet a lot of new people on that tour. So yeah, that is the second way. And the third way is to obviously make your own travel itinerary. This is what I did for Thailand. The reason why I chose to do this for Thailand and not like book onto a tour, I think one of you guys have asked me this actually, is just because me being me, I kind of wanted to just prove to myself that I could plan something by myself independently and for everything to kind of like follow through, which it did for the most part. So I was very pleased and impressed with myself. And I also did just want a bit more flexibility, have a bit more time to like edit on the go, because I upload when I'm traveling and I was also working, so doing like collegemia tutoring stuff. So those are the two kind of reasons why I chose to make my own itinerary, and it was incredibly fulfilling. Like, I loved the whole process. And for me in Thailand, I loved having the balance of, you know, having my itinerary and a rough plan, well, quite a detailed plan actually, but then kind of going with the flow in the country, changing things here and there, because we did miss a couple of destinations in Thailand. We missed Koh Phi Phi or Koh Phi Phi, I never know how you say it, and Khao Sok, the national park, because we were ill and because transport was suddenly really expensive to get to Koh Phi Phi. But everything worked out in the end, and as I said, everything that we did is in my itinerary, linked down below. Now I'm just going to spend a bit of time talking about how I actually went about making my itinerary in quite a lot of detail. So step number one is to do your research. You want to do a lot of research, and this is going to be the most time consuming thing. It's like writing an essay, okay? You need to do that research. And then how I go about doing this research, it's actually so fun. Like, the first thing I do is I watch loads of YouTube videos, and I don't watch a set channel. I just find lots of videos that are quite recent about the country. I watch travel vlogs themselves, advice videos, budget videos, just to get a feel for the country, because I think it's so insightful to get information from actual videos, especially when you're thinking about traveling. Secondly, then I'll find and read a lot of blog posts, and I again try and find those that have been posted quite recently, because I want up-to-date information. Again, I just search on Google and I end up on lots of different websites. And I should say, by the way, I make all of my notes on Notion. Two other things I'll then do as part of my research are I will firstly contact any friends or people I know who have been to that country, because just like watching YouTube videos, it is so useful to get first-hand insight into someone's travel experiences. And the final thing I will do is make sure I am familiar with a map of that country. We need to do a bit of geography work, because when you're reading blog posts or you're watching YouTube videos, I like to know where these places are on the map, so I can kind of work out the route they're following and just put everything into context. Like, I am the type of person who doesn't know the world map too well. I, the other day, thought the Maldives was in Europe. I'm not afraid to say it, and I'm gonna proudly sit here and say that I thought the Maldives was in Europe when it's actually in Asia. A little tip I'll throw in here is, when you're doing your research, try and look for like the typical or the well-traveled backpacking routes, because that will help you when you come to actually putting your itinerary together, which we'll talk about in a bit. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the trip duration. There's not much to say here, but like, if you've already gone into this travel planning with a duration in mind, then just make sure that you have time to fit everything in. However, you might not have any time constraints, and if so, you just need to work out how long you want to spend in that country or those countries. And what I did with Thailand is I knew I had a month in the country, and that was because as a UK citizen I could get a visa exemption for 1 month. And when I started doing my research and putting together my itinerary, it was very jam-packed, like go non-stop. And so what I found is that I would often just like take out destinations as I realized that I wanted to slow it down a bit. If you choose to download my itinerary, you will see something like this pop up on your screens, and this is what I'm gonna be using just to talk you guys through how I actually made it. Because the next thing, obviously, after you've done your research and you've planned the trip duration, is to put together the itinerary. This is where like you can get really creative. I love doing this, it's so fun. But I simply start with a table, or you can do this in Notion itself using like the calendar, but I just use a plain document. I put in Monday through to Sunday, and then I just add in all the dates manually. That is just how I tend to do it, but I make my own calendar essentially in a table form. And then what I do is I make a key. This is when it becomes really bright and colourful, because I will colour code different destinations, and then I'll start blocking out how long I want to spend in each place. That might be a country, or it might be a destination within a single country. So for me in Thailand, it was like, okay, 2 days in Bangkok at the start, then we're going to spend like 4 or 5 days in Chiang Mai. These numbers you're probably wondering, I kind of got them from the YouTube videos and the blog posts I was reading, because often they will recommend how long you should stay in a certain place. And then, as I said, things can always change and you can shuffle things around. So once I've done that, I then start noting down how I'm going to get from A to B. So for example, from Bangkok to Chiang Mai, we were going to get an overnight sleeper train. And then I will start noting down the different accommodation options. So this is when I go to booking.com or hostelworld.com, and I just start looking for places to stay. I put in the dates, I see what prices are like, I look at pictures, I find places from blog posts and recommendations, and I just put in a few different possibilities. What Matthew and I learned in Thailand that is really useful actually is we would book one night in a new location, and then we would do exploring on foot, find some other places to stay that were quite nearby and see if we preferred that, and then we could always change accommodation. That gives you flexibility, and we really enjoyed doing that because it's quite fun to just go like hostel shopping, as it were. I'll then start adding a bit more detail on top of that. So after I've got transport down and accommodation kind of roughly organized, I will start to make a note of the things to do in that place, the key attractions to visit, how you can get about in that city or that area, like whether you need to hire a scooter or a bike, or if you can see a lot just through walking. You know, I start to add in all of this detail. A lot of this stuff I'm just lifting from my notes in Notion because I've done a lot of research, and I'm just going to paste it into my itinerary. And you can also start looking for like guided tours in particular areas. So for example, I knew that in Chiang Mai I wanted to do a cooking class and an elephant tour, so I spent so much time looking for ethical elephant sanctuaries, as I talked to you guys about. I would just say be as detailed as you can when making an itinerary, and if it starts off looking really cluttered and chaotic, and you know, you don't think you're going to end up seeing all these different places because it's just going to be too fast-paced, then you can narrow things down, take out certain destinations, because that's what I did. My first itinerary looks quite a bit different to the final one. So that's kind of like how I put together my itinerary. I did follow a typical backpacking route, as I said, and when traveling itself, like when Matthew and I were in Thailand, what really helped me personally was making like to-do lists for each day. And you don't have to do this, obviously. This is just how I kind of work, and this is what helps me. I like to make to-do lists like the night before for the next day. I'd write down, you know, where we wanted to go, what we wanted to see, where I maybe want to try and go to eat, try out some new food, and that helps keep me on track. The next section of this video then is to just talk about the really important research and the really important details that you need to find out when you are doing your travel research. The first thing is to make sure you have a passport A, and to make sure it's still in date, just check its validity before you travel anywhere. Number two is to look at the currency used in that country or those countries and look at the exchange rate. The next thing is to plan a budget. Now, you don't have to do this, okay? I didn't do it for Australia, but I did do it for Thailand, and I talked about all of this in my Thailand spending video, which I will link down below. But if you've done a lot of research and you've seen, you know, like prices of things, you can try and set a budget. And if you find good blog posts, they'll often tell you like how much you would be spending each day on average in that country. And then related to spending, I would make a note of whether you're going to be using cards or cash most of the time. So for example, again in Thailand, we used mostly cash, but I did recommend cards in that video as well. Something else that's really important is to note down the emergency service numbers. Like for example, in the UK, 999 is the emergency number. You never know when there is going to be an emergency and when you are going to need that number, so trust me, like make a note of it or make a note of them, because sometimes there are quite a few different numbers. And then also look if any travel vaccinations are essential or just like recommended. For Thailand, by the way, I talked about this in my Q&A. That's another video that you might be interested in watching, so I'll link that down below. But I didn't get any travel vaccinations for Thailand. And related to that, are there any COVID entry requirements? Please, please, please take out travel insurance for the full duration of your trip. You can get downloading apps that you can use in the country. So for example, in Australia, YHA, so Youth Hostel Australia, they had an app I could use to look at all my bookings. And then for Thailand, we downloaded Grab, Bolt, Food Panda, and then we also had to get an app called Morchana that was like related to our test and go package, because we had to take an antigen test on day 5 of us being in the country. I would look into the language spoken and maybe like start to familiarize yourself with some of the words that are most often used or that will be most useful. So for example, like how to say hello, goodbye, thank you. I learned the word for vegan in Thai, so that is J. And then I also learned how to say like no meat, eggs, dairy, fish sauce and all this stuff. Kopumka in Thai is how I would say thank you, and then Savadika is hello, and then as I said, vegan is J, and then I can say like my mu, my gai, my hi, my tale, my nyampang, my... I always forget the final one. Finally, you may consider like printing off all of your travel related documents, so like having a physical copy of your passport, for example, if you need like a pass to get into the country. So we needed a Thai pass and we printed that off. Do you need to print off like your insurance, your first accommodation, your flights? I don't know, it might just be useful to have those all printed out and in a folder. That for me is like the really important details I would make sure I'm making a note of when doing my research. To finish this video then, I'm going to talk about things specific to Thailand, because if you are thinking about going to the country, then I want to give you guys as much information as possible. But the first thing I'll say about Thailand is you shouldn't really drink the tap water. I will be honest, Matthew and I were brushing our teeth with the tap water, but for everything else Matthew and I used bottled water. We bought it from 7-Eleven. We got like really big 6-litre bottles and like 3-litre ones sometimes, but like you cannot really drink the water. And I feel like there have been improvements in the water quality in Thailand based on the research I did, but if you drink a lot of the water, I don't think your stomach will thank you. And in future, I would look into getting like a bottle with like a filter in it, which I know you can get, but I just don't know how good they are. So if you guys have any recommendations, please feel free to share that information down below. This is kind of specific to Thailand, but it's also general as well. To book accommodation, I use booking.com. I sometimes did some research on hostelworld.com. And when booking accommodation, you can just go into a hostel itself and like book. Related to that, booking transport in the country, so like domestic transport, I use the website One2Go. I also use like Air Asia for internal flights, but I also did a lot of the booking in person as well, so just like asking our accommodation, because they know the best routes and they will tell you how to get from A to B in like the fastest way or like the most convenient way, whatever you're really looking for. But just like ask your accommodation because they're so useful. I mentioned these before, but the apps to use in Thailand are Grab, Bolt, and both of those will get you taxis in like the busy areas, and then Food Panda as well. Grab is used for like transport, but you can also use it for food delivery like Food Panda, and you will pay by card. With SIM cards, Matthew and I got TrueMove SIM cards for 30 days. It was like about £15. As I said in my Thailand spending video, we got these at the airport in Bangkok as soon as we arrived pretty much, and they sorted everything out for us. Like we gave them our phones, we could see everything they were doing, but they put the SIM card in, they set it all up on our phone, and it was really easy and a really smooth process really. With tours then, I would ask your accommodation. Like as I said before, your accommodation providers will have so much information because they obviously live in that country. So for example, in Chiang Mai we stayed at the Itinerary hostel. Highly recommend that accommodation. It was so good with Pappy, and yeah, we booked our cooking class through the Itinerary hostel because it was like recommended in the hostel. Some other very specific recommendations for Thailand based on what Matthew and I did. We loved the cooking class, as I said, and the elephant tour was honestly amazing as well. That was the 2-day tour with Elephant Land in Chiang Mai. On Koh Tao, that is where Matthew and I did scuba diving. That's where most people go to scuba dive in Thailand, but you can also check out the Similan Islands. I got my PADI in Australia, and then I got my advanced qualification on Koh Tao with lab hormona diving with Brian. So good. I have a discount code linked down below for you guys to use, as I've said before. You can do like tri dives, you can get your like open water. Just like definitely check them out. They're also multilingual as well, so that's another great thing about lab hormona diving. My itinerary will have listed all of the places where we stayed, so like the hostels and the hotels sometimes, because they were just so cheap. I have a discount code for Lubdi. As you guys know, we stayed on Koh Samui and in Bangkok with Lubdi. Those hostels, oh my gosh, so great for backpackers and like couples and families really. But if you want great places to stay, like hostels that feel like hotels, definitely use my discount code. As I said, it's just Holly, and go to Lubdi. You will have an amazing time. Even when you're going to a hot country like Thailand, I would take some warmer clothes. Like you only really need to take one pair of say tracksuit bottoms or elephant trousers, but this is so useful when you're say on an airplane or on a minibus or like a bus or a train with aircon. blasting on full power. Trust me, it will get very cold and you will be grateful for that extra hoodie or those trousers that you're wearing, because when I was wearing shorts on a plane one time, I was so cold and I was like, I really don't want to have goosebumps all over my legs right now. So that is everything for this video. I really hope it was useful, informative, enjoyable to watch as always. And yeah, if you have any other questions, you can always leave those down below. If you have any other recommendations, please again feel free to share with myself and everyone else who is watching and reading the comments. Please let me know if you guys are planning any travel adventures like backpacking trips. I really want to know where you're going, but I will keep you guys updated and in the loop with what I have in mind. But yeah, I've literally fallen in love with traveling and it is so fun. As usual, definitely like this video if you enjoyed it, comment down below, subscribe if you're new, and hit the bell sooner when I upload. And as always, I'll speak to you very soon in another video. Bye. Is it too bright or like I think it's really dark in my room, isn't it? This lighting is really annoying me today. Like, is it too dull? I'm like a freaking yo-yo here. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Doesn't even seem to have changed anything. And then related to spending, I would, whoa, look at this exposure now.